Okay, 2.6 is algebraic proof, so we're going to start by writing two-column proofs. So the beginning of this page you can see are just a bunch of properties that we're going to use that you've already used along your way in math. A bunch of properties of equality. So you have addition property of equality, which is adding the same thing to both sides. Subtraction, multiplication, division, same thing. The reflexive property is when anything is equal to itself. Symmetric is saying if A equals B, then B equals A. So just kind of like a mirror image of each other there. Transitive property, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. And substitution is when you can just substitute one thing in for the other there. And the distributive property you've practiced as well. So when we're writing a two-column proof, on the left-hand side we're going to have what are our statements. And then over here on the right we're going to have the reasons. So this first one is we're going to solve this equation. Usually it will tell you something that it wants you to prove at the end when we get into proofs, but we're just kind of starting them off now with something you've already done, which is equations. So the first thing we're going to write in is the statement that they gave us is going to go here. So I'm just going to rewrite this. Try to write small if you're a large printer. And then that is going to be given. So you should always have the given in there of what they gave you in the problem. So now we're going to actually solve this. So the first thing I would do is I would distribute. So this would become 10 minus 6a So that was the distributive property. So basically what we're doing is we are just really solving them and then stating what property we used or what we did to solve it. So in here now, we're going to combine like terms on here. So I have a negative 6a and a negative 4a. And I have a 10 and a negative 28. Okay, now that we're going to actually call the substitution because I'm substituting in like a negative 6a minus 4a is the same thing as negative 10a, so I'm substituting that negative 10a in there. Okay, so now I would add 18 to both sides. So if I do that, that's going to become 110. And then from there, I would divide both sides by negative 10. And that's going to be the division property. Property of equality. And so that gives us our answer here. So really just breaking down and writing down what you're doing on each step. So part B, we have this given to us, and we're going to show that this is kind of the same thing here. So I'm going to start with my given. Let me write my statements and reasons here. So the first one was given. So the first thing I would do if I wanted to solve for t is I would add 5 to both sides. So then it's going to look like this. And that would be the addition property. So I'm going to abbreviate those a little bit. Okay, the next thing I would do is divide both sides by 20. So there's my division property, and now you can see I have what they asked for at the beginning there. Alright, one more. So here we have measure of angle A is congruent to measure of angle B. Measure of angle B equals 2 times the measure of angle C. And measure of angle C equals 45 degrees. So we want to show that the measure of angle A has to equal 90. So I'm starting with my statements and reasons. The things that they gave us right at the beginning here, I'm going to put those all here. If you need to use more than one row in there, you can. Which it looks like I'm going to have to. So those are both given. Okay, so if it says that angle A is congruent to angle B, that means that their measures are the same. So I'm going to say measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle B, and that's by the definition of congruent angles. Definition of congruent angles. Okay, so if measure of angle A is equal to measure of angle B, and measure of angle B equals 2m 2 times the measure of angle C, I can say, using the transitive property, that the measure of angle A would also be equal to 2 times the measure of angle C. So now I can actually substitute things in here. So we know that C is 45 degrees, so I'm going to say measure of angle A equals 2 times 45 degrees. That's substitution. And then I can actually simplify this. So this is saying measure of angle A would equal 90 degrees. Substitution. Okay, so you are going to try the last one. This one is algebraic again. So you're really just solving this equation on this side and telling what you did over here. So you only have one of them to do. And lastly, a joke. What do witches ask for when they're at hotels? They ask for broom service. Okay, hope you have a wonderful day and make sure you're kind to someone today.